Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your week 2 Monday morning breakfast bite. So this week we have a few little things to get started on, and one of them is your team project. So this week you're going to go ahead and complete your team building exercise, and your team building exercise is really about getting everybody on the same page. I'm going to go ahead and assign teams this morning. It's Monday, and so you should all be able to click under class list, and where you see your name, you should have your group assigned to you and know what your group assignment is. Go to your team's discussion forum, post to it, and then either the first person to post will be the captain, or if you all decide otherwise, that's fine too. The team building exercise is important because the idea is for everybody to really think about what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. We all bring strengths and weaknesses to every situation, and some of us may be better at organizing and doing research, others may be better at writing and editing, and then there are those that are in between. So everybody is going to have to do some writing for the project. Everybody's going to have to do some research for the project, but the way you divide that is really going to be up to you and your team members. And so I want you to think about those strengths, because in this form you're also going to identify as a team what strengths you're going to build on for moving forward with the team project. And you're going to identify who's going to be in charge of what with regard to the team project. So I want you to look at it as an overall who's going to be doing what, but then also getting down to nitty-gritty for the different deliverables. So you do need to take a look at the team materials folder and understand what the deliverables are going to be for the team project. There are going to be 4 deliverables. There is the team hypothetical, which is your team deliverable 1 that you have to create. Then there is the deliverable 2, which is where you're actually going to analyze a hypothetical from another team. And then you have your team deliverable 3, which is creating your PowerPoint for your final presentation. And I know you're online, but you will be doing an online final presentation. And we'll talk about everything as we go along. And then your deliverable 4, which is your final presentation as a team. And you could do that as a voiceover PowerPoint. You could do that. I've had team members actually get together at one place and do it together as a team. So it really depends on the logistics of your situation and what you and your team decides upon. Now, with that said, going back to the form for this week, you're going to be filling that out. Each team member should fill out the form and then submit it to whoever you've designated as the team captain. That form is due on Sunday. Now, originally in the syllabus, it shows that the team deliverable 1 is due this week. No, I just want you to be working and thinking about the deliverable number 1 for the team project. The only thing that is due with regard to the team project this week is that team building exercise. And I only want 1 submission by the team captain. If the team captain wants to submit everybody's individual form along with that 1 submission, that's fine, as long as just the team captain is submitting the document on behalf of the team. Now, if for some reason the team captain is held up and can't submit it, then please somebody else step in and submit it on behalf of the team. But it goes to that level of communication, everybody talking to each other and knowing where we are, because we all have time commitments. We're all busy running in many different directions, whether it's family and working full time, or who knows what the situation is at any given moment. So we all need to work together. Now, with that said, I want to go ahead and if you pull up the team building form, you will see where at first I want each individual to list what their challenges are and then list 3 strengths. So 3 challenges, 3 strengths. Then for each team member, this is where the form gets combined by the team captain with everybody agreeing on a strength for each member and then the member's name next to that strength. We go down and then team task assignments. So look at it overall, but also start thinking about on an individual basis. Because next week, when you start creating that hypothetical scenario that you're going to create for the team project, you want to make sure that everybody's on board and everybody's contributing. And that's also very important for the team assignment and the team project just in general. If in fact you're a team member for whatever reason does not contribute to a particular deliverable, that team member's name does not go on that deliverable, and there should be a title page for every deliverable that is submitted. So deliverable 1 should have a title page with your team's number and each contributing team member. Because in all fairness, if in fact somebody isn't contributing, it's not fair to everybody else that's worked hard on the project that that person received credit for it. So please understand that when you are submitting that information. Now, also with regard to homework this week, you have, your week 2 discussion. So I want you to make sure that you've got that down. Remember, your discussions are due, initial discussion posting, by Thursday every evening at 11:55 p.m. and then by Sunday your response posting to another student. You also have a week 2 Cengage video quiz, and I hope you guys are enjoying those. Going in, it's just a different way to learn and just help you to absorb the material in a different way. Easy 10 points, because obviously you can take the video quiz many times until you score the highest score that you feel you can and go with it. So as we move on in the course, what I'm probably going to do is go ahead and schedule what is a WebEx online meeting, and that's a meeting where you and we all get together face-to-face online, and as if we are in a class setting, but that's because it's important with regard to the team project and with regard to the individual term project. I want everybody to do as well as they can. And because we lose that element of that connection when we're in an online class, it's a great way for all of us to connect and ask questions that you may have at that time. So write them down so you don't forget them, and you can ask them at that time. I don't know whether we're going to be doing it this weekend or during the week next week, but we will be doing it soon, and I'll let everybody know. And usually I give everybody a couple of choices as to dates and times. And I know it's hard to fit everybody's schedule, but that's what we'll be looking at. Now, with all of that said, real quick, let's go ahead and look at this week's materials, if I can get to it. Obviously, you see me looking to my left, and that's because I've got 2 screens, and I've got my courses up on that screen. We're talking about contracts this week, and I know it's 8 chapters that you're looking at, but with 9 chapters actually. But this is material that you've already gone over. So you reviewed it in your lower division business law course, and this is still just a refresher. And the chapters, I think you'll agree, are pretty easy to read. And really, a lot of the material that's divided into these 9 chapters could actually be condensed easily into 2 or 3 chapters. So when you look at it from that standpoint, you're not actually reading, that much material, although I know it does seem like a lot. But go through the material, make sure you are familiar and reacquaint yourself with the terms. What is a bilateral contract? What is a unilateral contract? What's a quasi-contract? Very important to understand the terms of a contract, the primary terms, which are an agreement or requirements of a contract: agreement, consideration, capacity, and legality. If any of those are missing from a contract when you just simply look at it, then you don't have a valid and enforceable contract. Now, don't get confused, don't get defenses to what appears to be a valid and enforceable contract confused with these requirements, because what happens is when we use a defense to what appears to be a valid and enforceable contract, we're saying that we're poking holes in those requirements, saying I didn't have a meeting of the minds because I was under duress, or there was fraud used in inducing me to reach that agreement. That's different. Now, with that situation, the court could hold that the contract is void and unenforceable, but from looking at the contract, it appears that it is a legally binding and enforceable contract. On the other hand, if you had a contract that stated you were to put a hit out on somebody, we would know just from looking at it that in fact it's not a valid and enforceable contract, because it does not meet the legality requirement, because it's not legal to, kill somebody under contract or otherwise. So we're not going to even get into the criminal aspects of it. So I want you to be aware of that. Statute of frauds is very important, because with the statute of frauds, we're talking about the requirements for certain contracts to be in writing, and you cannot get around that requirement. If it's a real estate contract, then it has to be in writing. You can talk about it and verbalize it until you're blue in the face. But until you actually sign on that dotted line, both parties sign on that dotted line, it is not a valid and enforceable contract, and there's nothing you can do to try and make it one. under the statute of frauds. The 1 year rule. If a contract cannot be completed in 1 year, and we see this quite often with employment contracts and with construction contracts, then it's not going to be enforceable either. Guarantees, which is I am personally guaranteeing that the money that is being borrowed on this contract is going to be paid back. And we get into personal guarantees most often when we're talking about businesses signing contracts, and maybe it's a new business that has not yet established credit, and the lender wants the owner of the business or directors of the business, officers, to sign and say that in fact they personally guarantee the money will be paid back. Now the problem is that then we're getting into the liability of the individual as opposed to the company itself, especially corporation. But we'll talk about that when we get to that material. And then sales or lease of goods, and of course, prenuptial agreements, postnuptial agreements have to be in writing too. Third-party rights and assignments, intended beneficiaries, pay attention to that. Performance, damages. What damages are you entitled to if in fact somebody does breach a contract? Are we looking at consequential damages, which are damages outside of what the contract says, or are we looking at the actual damages alone? And it's going to depend on the situation and on the terms of the contract, and so you have to be aware of those things. Be aware that e-commerce, we've got e-contracts now, and we have to know that silence is not acceptance. So when you have an agreement that's online, you have to make sure that the consumer or the person reading the contract has the ability to either click accept or reject, because if they don't, then it's not going to be a valid enforceable contract, because silence is never acceptance. So just pay attention to those things. I know I've thrown a lot at you, but if you have any questions, email me, and I'm available and usually get back with you within 24 hours. You guys have a great week.